Now, I just like the timing is crazy. The timing is absolutely crazy. I just did a video talking about John Morant. Is he overrated or underrated? About a week and a half ago, a couple of days before Christmas, and JJ Redick came out. My only concerns with the Memphis Grizzlies. Let's see if he says anything that debunks what I said about John Morant, or if he says anything that supports what I said about John Morant. Let's hop into it.
You've been in a lot of games like this. You've been in a lot of games where you've, going back to college, just sort of like high profile rivalries where the teams are barking at each other beforehand. There's a history, there's a lot of emotion going into it. It felt to me like the emotion got the best of Memphis a little bit. And Golden State had a couple.
And I feel like he just said it. I was going to say I feel like he's talking about the Golden State game where no Steph Curry. I don't think they had Draymond, and Klay Thompson didn't play a great game. Jordan Poole went for 40, but it was that game. It was the Christmas game. It was the Christmas Day game. They totally folded under pressure. They're a team. They're a young team, so they do chat a lot. But when other teams start chatting against you, I feel like when you're that young, you're able. The other team is able to get in your head a lot easier than you're able to get into their head. So I feel like that's just what happened with the Memphis Grizzlies.
Guy like Poole went off. Ty Jerome was great. The other person I wanted to ask you about on Golden State in particular was Wiseman, who feels like it was actually great defensively, and it feels like it's sort of carving out somewhat of a role for himself, which is, probably unexpected based on.
Hey, that man got sent back down to the G League. I keep talking about these topics. I said something about this in my Patrick Williams video. James Wiseman is a good player. He is a top 5 overall pick. He is not in a system that wants him to be good. Actually, I'm not going to say they don't want him to be good, but they don't need him in that system. He does not fit in their system. They want shooters. James Wiseman is not a shooter. He is an interior post player. They're not going to keep him on the roster. They're not going to keep him in the lineup. They're not going to give him rotational minutes, which is dumb. Last year in the finals, actually, I can't remember if that was James Wiseman or Jonathan Kuminga who actually got minutes in last year's finals, and they actually provided, they actually contributed something positive to the team because they had Grant Williams and Robert Williams dominant. Even Al Horford was dominating them on the boards because the Golden State Warriors like that small ball lineup. They put either James, I can't remember which one it was. I'm pretty sure it was James Wiseman. But they put one of them out there on the floor. The rebound discrepancy shifted a little bit, and they were able to start winning games. So I don't understand why they keep putting these players in the G League or why they're not giving them rotational minutes. It's very confusing to me. It's odd to me. And that's probably one of the main reasons why the Golden State Warriors have started off so poorly this year.
But it felt like with Memphis, like they almost like threw themselves off because of how much they've hyped this game up for themselves. And I'm curious if you think that that's a real thing or it's more just a credit to Golden State coming out and playing well.
I think it's a real thing that happens in sports. I think it's a valid point, Tommy. There's certainly X's and O's, and there's certainly game plans and reacting to those game plans and making plays in real time. There's all of that. Then there's the emotional and the mental side of sport. And if you look at some of the factors leading up to this game, right? Ja Morant's comments that no one in the West worries him. It's the first Christmas game in Memphis Grizzlies history. So it's the first Christmas game for Dillon Brooks and JJJ and Desmond Bane and Ja Morant, all these guys that have spent their whole careers in Memphis. They're on the road on the other side of the country. So maybe they're dealing with FaceTimes all day. Maybe they brought their families out. Like, there's a lot that goes into playing on Christmas. It's not just another normal game. Perk mentioned this on First Take, which I thought was great. Like, the Christmas Day games feel unlike any other regular season game. There's a playoff feel to it. The Warriors know that.
Yeah.
And the Warriors played like that. So I do think that's a factor. I'm still so bullish on the Grizzlies. I think, their offense will get in the top 10, in the top 7 once Bane gets back into rhythm and back into shape. After such a long layoff, he hasn't been particularly good in his 2 games back. My concern with them, this is really like legitimately my only concern with them, assuming Desmond Bane returns to how he played in the first 12 games, is Jared Jackson Jr. and Dillon Brooks are their 2 best defenders, and they both foul a ton. Yeah, and we saw that last night.
Triple J can't play without
trouble
fouling.
Is a legitimate issue with those 2 guys. And granted, Jaren Jackson Jr. is being required to protect the rim on that team, and Dillon Brooks is being required to guard the other team's best player. So they're going to foul more than the average guy like me who's going to hide on defense. I get that. It's some of the bad fouls. The reaches.
Yeah, and they do have a lot of, even going back to last year. King of the fourth quarter, I will watch a lot of his post game kind of analysis, and a lot of the times Jaren Jackson Jr. will foul out. He fouled out in like 12 minutes one time. Like, he's fouling out sub 20 minutes on some occasions, and a lot of those fouls are dumb take fouls. They're stupid reach in fouls. They're you get backed up too deep into the post, and now you just grabbing over the defender. It's like, you have to play smart. You are the best defender on the team, perimeter and interior. So you're going to pick up fouls, obviously. But it's a lot of great defenders that can defend without fouling. Kawhi Leonard, you don't really see. Bam Adebayo, he's great on the interior. You don't really see Bam Adebayo or Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert in the past couple of years getting into foul trouble that much on the interior. So I don't think that it's necessarily he can't play defense without fouling. He just takes stupid take fouls a majority of the time. And that's something that you just have to practice on. If that's something that they're not practicing on, then obviously he's not going to improve on it. Coach has to talk to him. The defensive coordinators have to talk to him. That's just something that you have to work on, because you shouldn't be fouling out in less than 20 minutes. At such a high level of defense that you play, you should not be fouling out in less than 20 minutes at all, ever.
The offensive screens, Dillon Brooks had one yesterday on a loose ball, and it's just, dude, you guys are so valuable for your team. You have to figure out a way to stay on the court, because you're gonna foul. You're gonna foul.
Yeah, I
had this. I don't know if
this is updated after yesterday, but this was going into the game yesterday with Jaren Jackson Jr. They're first in since he's come back. They're first in defense. They're first in half court defense, and they're first in at the rim field goal percentage defense.
Right.
And so to that point with him in particular, like, what is it a mental block? Like, what do you do to not do this? Because it does feel like when he's playing,
you
and
just
how
have
he's
to
capable of
practice.
playing defensively. And you've been saying this all year. They probably are the best team in the NBA, maybe them and the Celtics, but they're in the conversation. They're in the conversation.
For that, you just said they probably are the best team. I want to be clear. I'm not going that far. I think they can win a championship.
I will say that as a team. I think
the Celtics are the best team in basketball.
I don't want to say best team.
Yeah,
I would say that as
Celtics
a team that when Jaren Jackson is playing how he plays defensively, they don't have any holes. They don't have any holes. They are really good across the board. They're really deep. We've gone over this ad nauseum with a bunch of different. So what is? I mean, you kind of just said it, but like, what does he do?
I think it's that simple. I do.
I just feel like he has to practice.
You're not going to tell him, hey, man, if somebody gets beat on defense.
You have to practice. You have to be more disciplined. Like, he's not disciplined on the defensive end as he's not as disciplined on the defensive end as he should be. So it's just something that you have to practice. It's nothing crazy. You just have to drill it into his head. Stop taking these dumb fouls. You're taking these dumb fouls, setting these decent free throw shooters to the line, and then plus your minutes are getting restricted because you're in foul trouble early. You picked up 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes of the game. Now you got to sit out. Now you're coming back in the second. Now you can't play as aggressive on the defensive end as you want to, and that's a big problem as well. He's an aggressive defensive player. So once he comes back in with those 2 fouls, they're going to attack him. And attack him, and then he's going to pick up his 3rd foul. He's going to pick up his 4th foul, and they're going to have to sit him again. Now he's not back in until after halftime, and then he comes back after halftime in the 3rd quarter. Boom, boom, 2 more fouls, and he's out of the game. He just has to be more disciplined on the defensive end. They have to work on that. They have to practice that. They have to drill that into his head, because he is still a young player. He's still a young player.
Defense, please don't protect the rim.
Yeah.
You know, if you're guarding Giannis in the finals, please don't foul him. Well, you know, he's going to pick up some fouls at the rim. He's going to pick up some fouls in one-on-one matchups. It's being smarter about avoiding certain fouls.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing for Dillon Brooks. The full episode of The Old Man.
I agree 100% with what JJ said. I mean, they didn't really say anything too controversial, nothing for me to disagree with. But yeah, the Memphis Grizzlies, that is one of the only problems is their defense outside of Dylan Brooks and Jaren Jackson Jr. is not that great. But when those guys get into foul trouble, when those guys miss games, that's where you're going to see the Memphis Grizzlies at their worst. That's when John Moran is going to have to go out there and have 35, 40 plus points per game to even make it a close game. But I hope you all did enjoy. If you did, feel free to hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and share the video. Share the video with your mom, dad, brother, uncle, sister. You know, just share the video. Get the video out there. See you in the next video. Peace out.